this video we're going to set up the final composition. All of the animation clips that we've been doing and the techniques that we've shown will get assembled into a final comp and should appear to be one seamless animation. Let's go to File and Load from the Scenes folder DinoRig.fxs, our default rigged character that our clips will get applied to. Since we've created all of our animations inside the clip, we don't need to see any of these bones anymore. The only bone we're going to animate inside the 3D view is going to be the main bone, which isn't even part of the group. Collapse the hierarchy, and instead of setting all of the bones to be none so that they disappear from the scene, just use the viewport draw mode to filter them out. If you right click on it, you can tell it to draw only if it's exactly what's been flagged inside the item list. So set the main to the same draw mode as the mesh and activate this and change it to facet and edges. So the only thing that gets displayed are these two objects that are set to draw facet and edges. Make sure you are set to parent coordinates when you're keyframing, or turn coordsys off and use the left mouse button. I've said that throughout the entire tutorial series. And let's create the animation. So when you're thinking about composing animations together, you have a whole library of animations, and now all you have to do is direct where the character is going. So plan where the character is going to wind up, and plan what kind of animations you're going to use to get that character to move there. Oftentimes in production, you're going to be given a certain length of time to get a character to a position, and a position in space that the character needs to wind up at. And apply your animations accordingly after the fact. So just like before, we'll start by keyframing this one bone to the correct position, and to make sure we include all of our animations that we've created in the series, I'm going to generate an SCurve so we can use our curves. We'll have different timings that will allow us to blend the different speeds together, so we can fade from a walk to a run and a stop and a pause. And we're going to need to adjust the motion curves of the main bone as it goes throughout these animations. So we'll start with the SCurve here and make the frames. This is going to be a 300 frame long animation. And to make sure that these frames are running properly, every 100 frames, move him a specific distance. Now I don't know how long the distance is going to be. I just know that I need to move him a specific distance. So here's the first distance, frame 200. Move him the next distance. If we make this one longer, we could pretend that he's running this distance. He's going to go back frame 300, move him a shorter distance. So big deal, he's running in a straight line. Well, we need to check our timing on this to see if he's running correctly. So if he looks like he's walking too fast, because we want him to walk fast on the first part and run on the other part. So go back to frame 100. Let's just move him back so that he walks correctly. I'm going to hit play again. Hopefully this will match up. We may have to make the walk cycle play faster and make the run cycle play slower to get this to match up. He's going to speed up through this animation, and then he's going to slow back down through the last one. So he winds up in this position, playing a little bit slower, and hopefully we will have it lined up. So go to the top view. These are our key positions here. Frame 50. Create an SCurve, 50 to 100, 150. Let's do the opposite SCurve, and then when it hits frame 200, go to frame 250. Let's run the SCurve again. So we have some SCurves going on here. These are our passing positions, which means, of course, now that we have SCurves going on, the tangents are going to be all off. We'll set the tangents later. Let's go in between here, so frame 75. Let's move him again and position this halfway in between so that it's equally spaced. Frame 25, do the same thing. So we're establishing a pretty smooth curve. And because we're doing in equal increments along the timeline, it's going to be an equal transition. So have our character running consistent values here. Otherwise you're going to be doing more of the timing throughout the time or mix tracks than you will in the 3D view. Now if any time you want to change the keys inside the 3D view, middle mouse click on the key and it will select that frame. So you can go ahead and just reposition these so that they are sitting in the middle. So 125. Let's move that. And the more keys you put in here, the more refined it's going to be. The more refined the curve is going to be. So move that, middle mouse click. Let's get these positioned correctly in the right spots. And then the last one here, 225 and 275. These are passing positions, and I'm middle mouse clicking to pick the different positions, and I'm trying to make sure that the curve is evenly spaced. That way we can get a nice fluid movement here. Let's position some of these other spots here as we go along. See how well we go. So he's going to start moving and walking. It looks good so far. He's going to wind up at the end here, which we may need to hold over. So if we need to create this, let's make sure we're sitting on selected items. We're going to hold it over. And I know that our walk cycle stops and holds 30 frames long, I think. Let's do 275 here, because we can always change how much it goes. So he's gonna jump a little bit faster here on 275. So change how these curves move so that they are still uniform. Okay, work on the tangents now. We have a good S-curve going on here. Go back to frame 0. Use the A key to center the selection. Just zoom in and rotate him on heading so that he lines up with the correct spots here. Just rotate him so he's on the proper tangent. Looks good right there. Just make him follow the path. And you don't have to click on the rotate manipulator. If you've got the channel already selected, just drag inside the 3D view. And instead of moving the 3D view around, you can also center the view to the current selection. Just move them around and pay attention to the patterns being generated inside the curves editor down at the bottom. You can see that the heading is moving pretty smoothly, even with in-betweens. And you can zip between keyframes here and that. Let's copy that to frame 300, and now we have our animation as he's moving around. He's moving pretty well. We have decent movement here. And if we want to, we can go back in and add some more in. Frame 11. He moves along again. 36. And now I'm just positioning these keys in between, just by eyeballing in between the other keyframes. So I'm just doing some rapid in-betweens on the way around. So I've kept the transitions uniform. I hope the speed is correct. We're going to adjust the speed of the animations to match our movement, since we will pretend that this movement has been declared early on in planning. Turn off the target here. Make sure that these are still represent our curve, since he is moving. We created our S-curve so that you can see the density of the keyframes that go along here. Where they cross across the line here, you can see the density, so you know that he's going to be moving faster on one set of curves than on the other. Just make sure that these are set correctly. Okay, back to heading here. Let's adjust some of these again. Turn on target. Use the A key to center your selection. Let's just scrub through. Go back through our keyframes, make sure that we are centered correctly, that he appears to be right on line. So I'm just zipping through, just skipping to each keyframe so that I can keep him tangent to the curve that he's traveling along. We'll get an opportunity to blend our lean animations in. And you can also go through, if you see any hiccup in the curves here, now you can just eyeball this pattern, and to keep this as smooth as possible, just tweak the curves inside the graph editor until they look pretty smooth. Because we have a smooth curve inside the 3D view, it makes sense to have a smooth curve inside the graph editor along heading so that he moves along. So this is where we have it here. So we turn off the target and let's check our work. So as he's moving around, he's walking pretty slow. He's going to speed up as he goes around, then he's going to slow down again and do a slower walk. Or he could do a half walk, half run. Who knows until we get the clips added on. Check it out in the left view here. Let's hit play again. He's walking around. He speeds up. He slows down. And he stops. So let's say that this is going to be our character moving around the scene. Grab our camera. Let's look through the camera here. We'll start on frame 0. Let's move the camera to a good position. Well, let's see, let's move him to the front view here. Just slightly out. Right mouse click will move you along the camera's axis, which is in the local coordinate system, and left mouse click will move it in the parent coordinate system. So he's going to start walking here. Walk him over. I'm going to set another keyframe here with the camera. He's going to animate around to the end. Let's just move him on Z. Try to do a tracking shot here. Rotate him on heading. And he zooms off screen. Let's take a look at him again. Just moving forward. So this is kind of a crappy camera move here. So let's take a look at how the camera's operating compared to that. Move the camera keys around. So that's a little easier to move around with. I'm using middle mouse click. I'm just playing through just so we can see that he's running and walking. Oh, let's see what this keyframe is here. Just aim him down. So he walks around. Winds up over here. Let's adjust our heading. Oops, make sure you're on the right keyframe. Keep him centered in frame. And then he stops as the camera moves. So the camera is not the best in the world, but it will allow us to track this character as he moves around the scene. Go to File. We will save this scene as Dino Final Comp A.